Hi, travelers. We're standing at a crossroads of history, culture, and American identity. This is Mississippi, a land of deep contrast. Perhaps you think of steamboats on the Mississippi or the soulful echo of the blues. To truly get to know Mississippi, look beyond stereotypes. Here, hospitality is a way of life. The landscape tells a story, from rolling hills to the Gulf Coast. Our adventure takes us down Highway 61, the Blues Highway. We'll taste the food that fuels the soul of the South. As we travel, we'll grapple with Mississippi's complicated past and see how it has shaped the Mississippi of today. Let's explore the Magnolia State together. When you plan a trip, you often start with a mental postcard. For Mississippi, that might be a grand antebellum mansion, a cotton field, or a blues guitarist. And while those images are certainly part of the story, they are just the cover of a very thick book. We're going to venture beyond the well-known narratives to discover the everyday magic of this place. We'll meet the people who are shaping its future while honoring its past. Mississippi's identity is deeply tied to the land. The state's very name comes from the Ojibwe word for great river, a waterway that has been its lifeblood for centuries. The relationship between the people and the land is something you can feel here. This is a state that often finds itself at the bottom of national rankings, but these statistics don't tell the whole story. They don't measure the richness of community, the strength of faith, or the depth of family bonds that are so palpable here. Our journey is about celebrating Mississippi's contributions to American culture, which are immense and often underappreciated. This is, after all, the birthplace of America's music. So, what can you expect over the next 30 minutes? Think of this as a road trip we're taking together. We'll start in the historic river towns of Natchez and Vicksburg, where the past feels incredibly present. We'll walk through streets lined with magnificent homes and stand on battlefields where the fate of the nation was decided. We will learn how these cities are grappling with their complex histories, preserving their architectural treasures, while telling more complete and honest stories about all the people who lived here. It's a fascinating look at how a community can confront its past while looking toward the future. From there, we'll head north into the heart of the Mississippi Delta. This is a landscape unlike any other in America, flat, vast, and hauntingly beautiful. This is the land that gave birth to the blues, and we'll follow the music's trail from Clarksdale to Indianola. We'll visit the juke joints where legends were made and meet the musicians who are keeping the tradition alive for a new generation. We'll also explore the rich agricultural heritage of the region and learn about the lives of the sharecroppers and farm workers whose experiences shape the culture of the Delta in profound and lasting ways. It's a place of deep soul and powerful stories. Our journey won't stop there. We'll discover some of Mississippi's hidden gems. We'll wander through charming small towns, each with its own unique personality and local pride. We'll explore the lush, scenic beauty of the Natchez Trace Parkway, a historic forest trail that winds through the state, and we'll end our trip on the sun-kissed shores of the Gulf Coast, a region known for its beautiful beaches, fresh seafood, and resilient spirit. This part of our adventure is about showing you the diversity of Mississippi, from its bustling small cities to its quiet natural wonders, proving there is something here for every type of traveler. Throughout our travels, we will focus on connection. We'll connect the dots between the past and the present. We'll connect with the diverse people who call Mississippi home, listening to their stories in their own words, and hopefully, we'll help you connect with this fascinating and often misunderstood state. This isn't just a tour of sights, it's an immersive experience designed to give you a real feel for the place. So get comfortable and let's begin our journey into the heart and soul of Mississippi. There's so much to discover, and our adventure starts right now. Long before European ships, this land was home to thriving civilizations. To understand Mississippi, we start here, thousands of years before statehood with the first peoples. Nations like the Choctaw, the Chickasaw, and the Natchez built complex societies. They were master farmers, skilled hunters, and brilliant artisans with extensive trade networks. Dotted across the state are earthen mounds like the Grand Village of the Natchez Indians. Some were foundations for temples, Others served as sacred burial sites. They fished and hunted, their villages bustling centers where stories were passed down. We still see echoes of these cultures. Place names are a constant reminder of the people who first called this place home. Their spirit of resilience runs through Mississippi's story. It's a history that deserves to be honored and understood. The world of the first people was forever changed in the 16th and 17th centuries by the arrival of European explorers. First came the Spanish, followed by the French, who saw the Mississippi River as a strategic highway to build a vast colonial empire. The French were the first to establish a lasting presence, founding Fort Morepa in 1699, the first permanent European settlement in Mississippi. French colonists faced immense challenges, navigating relationships with Native American nations like the Choctaw, while also seeking alliances against the British. They established outposts like Fort Rosalie and Fort St. Pierre. Life here was a unique blend of European, African, and Native American influences, planting the seeds of the Creole culture. After the Seven-Year War, France ceded the territory to the British in 1763, with the Spanish later taking control. This period of shifting colonial rule left a lasting mark on Mississippi's culture, setting the stage for American expansion. As the 18th century closed, the Stars and Stripes flew over Mississippi. The cotton gin's invention in 1793 sealed the region's destiny. It turned cotton into a source of wealth. The Mississippi Delta's fertile soil triggered migration as settlers poured into the Mississippi Territory. Forests were cleared for vast cotton plantations. Steamboats crowded the river, traveling from ports like Natchez in the Teys. A wealthy planter class emerged. They built mansions, but this prosperity came at a staggering human cost. The Cotton Kingdom was built on enslaved African Americans. This era also saw the tragic removal of Native Americans. In the 1830s, they were marched west on the Trail of Tears. By the 1840s, the plantation economy set Mississippi on a collision course with the nation. On December 10, 1817, Mississippi officially became the 20th state in the Union. This was a moment of great pride and optimism for its white settlers. They were no longer a remote territory, but a full-fledged member of the United States. The early years of statehood were a time of rapid development. A new capital city, named Jackson in honor of the military hero Andrew Jackson, was established in a more central location. Roads were built, towns sprang up, and a legal and political framework was put in place to govern the growing state. The primary goal of this new government was to protect and promote the interests of the burgeoning cotton economy. The period between statehood and the Civil War is known as the antebellum era. During these decades, Mississippi's identity became inextricably linked to cotton and slavery. The state's constitution and laws were written to safeguard the institution of slavery, which was referred to as the peculiar institution. Mississippi became one of the wealthiest states in the nation, but this wealth was concentrated in the hands of a small number of elite plantation owners. For the majority of white residents, who were small farmers and didn't own slaves, life was a struggle, though they largely supported the social system that placed them above all black people. This society was full of deep contradictions. On the one hand, it placed a high value on Southern hospitality, family honor, and a strict code of conduct for its elite white members. Grand balls were held in opulent mansions, and political discourse was filled with lofty ideals of liberty and states' rights. On the other hand, this entire social structure was predicated on a system of brutal racial oppression. The enslaved population developed its own resilient culture in the face of this cruelty, finding strength in family faith and music. They created the spirituals, songs of sorrow and hope that would eventually evolve into the blues, America's most important musical art form. As the nation debated the issue of slavery, Mississippi became one of its most ardent defenders. Its political leaders argued aggressively for the right to expand slavery into new Western territories. They viewed any threat to the institution as a threat to their entire way of life, their economy, and their social order. This uncompromising stance isolated the state and pushed it further down the path towards secession. The early roots of Mississippi, which began with ancient native cultures, and passed through European colonial struggles, had now grown into a powerful and rigid system that would ultimately lead to the devastating conflict of the Civil War. The prosperous world of antebellum Mississippi ended in 1861. Mississippi seceded from the Union to protect its economic system dependent on enslaved labor. Young men signed up to fight, convinced of a short, victorious war. Mississippi became a major theater of the war due to its location on the Mississippi River. The Union aimed to control the river, cutting the South in two. The Siege of Vicksburg in 1863 was the turning point. Vicksburg's surrender was a blow to the Confederacy. Its fall gave the Union control of the Mississippi River. The war left Mississippi in ruins, its economy shattered. The most profound change was the emancipation of enslaved people. The Civil War's legacy would cast a long shadow over the state. The period immediately following the Civil War is known as Reconstruction. It was a time of fragile hope and immense possibility. The federal government occupied the state, and for the first time in Mississippi's history, African American men could vote, hold political office, and seek an education. Black leaders like Hiram Revels were elected to the United States Senate, representing the very state that had once enslaved them. Schools and churches, which became centers of Black community life, were established across Mississippi. For a brief, hopeful moment, it seemed as though a new, more equitable society might be built from the ashes of the old one. This progress, however, was met with fierce and violent resistance from many white Mississippians who were determined to restore the old social order. They viewed the empowerment of African Americans as a direct threat to their own status and identity. Secretive and violent organizations like the Ku Klux Klan emerged, using terror, intimidation, and murder to suppress the Black vote and undermine the Republican-led state government. Their goal was to re-establish white supremacy at any cost. This campaign of violence created a climate of fear that made the promises of Reconstruction incredibly difficult to realize and sustain. By 1877, federal troops had withdrawn from the South, officially ending Reconstruction. Conservative white Democrats, who called themselves Redeemers, quickly regained control of Mississippi's state government. They immediately set about dismantling the gains that had been made. A new state constitution was drafted in 1890 with the explicit purpose of disenfranchising Black voters. They implemented discriminatory measures like poll taxes, literacy tests, and grandfather clauses, which effectively stripped African Americans of their political power for generations. This was the beginning of the Jim Crow era, a system of legal segregation that would dominate life in Mississippi for the next 75 years. Under Jim Crow, segregation was the law of the land. Black and white Mississippians were separated in every aspect of public life, in schools, on trains, in restaurants, and at water fountains. The system was designed to enforce a rigid racial hierarchy and deny African Americans their basic civil rights. For Black families, life was a constant struggle against poverty, discrimination, and the ever-present threat of violence. Despite these oppressive conditions, they built strong communities, supported one another, and never gave up the dream of freedom and equality. It was this resilience and quiet determination that would eventually fuel the next great chapter in Mississippi's turbulent history, the Civil Rights Movement. By the mid-20th century, Mississippi had become a focal point of the national struggle for civil rights. The state was infamous for its rigid enforcement of segregation and its brutal opposition to any form of Black advancement. It was a place where simply trying to register to vote could get you fired from your job, evicted from your home, or worse. But it was in this climate of extreme oppression that some of the bravest and most determined activists rose to the challenge. Figures like Medgar Evers, the NAACP's field secretary in Mississippi, worked tirelessly, organizing boycotts and voter registration drives, knowing full well that his life was in constant danger. The fight for justice was often led by ordinary people who decided they had had enough. Fannie Lou Hamer, a sharecropper from the Delta, became one of the movement's most powerful voices. After being fired and brutally beaten for attempting to register to vote, she co-founded the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. Her passionate testimony at the 1964 Democratic National Convention where she famously declared, "I am sick and tired of being sick and tired," captivated the nation and exposed the raw brutality of Mississippi's racist system to the entire world. She gave a voice to the voiceless and inspired countless others to join the struggle for their fundamental rights. The summer of 1964, known as Freedom Summer, was a crucial moment. Hundreds of college students, both black and white, traveled to Mississippi from across the country to help register African American voters and set up freedom schools to educate children. The project was met with extreme violence. The disappearance and murder of 3 civil rights workers, James Chaney, Andrew Goodman, and Michael Schwerner, near the town of Philadelphia, Mississippi, brought national and international attention to the state. The tragedy horrified the country and helped galvanize support for the passage of the landmark Civil Rights Act of 1964. The sacrifices made by these activists and many others slowly began to break down the walls of segregation. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 finally provided federal protection for black voters, dramatically changing the political landscape of Mississippi. The struggle was far from over, but these victories marked a profound turning point. The civil rights movement did not erase the state's troubled past, but it opened the door to a new future. It is a story of incredible courage, profound sacrifice, and the unwavering belief that change, no matter how difficult, is always possible. This history is now being preserved and honored in museums across the state. Visiting Mississippi means engaging with its turbulent history, part of the public conversation. The Mississippi Civil Rights Museum confronts the state's past. Opened in 2017, this museum doesn't shy away from the darkest chapters. It guides visitors through slavery, Jim Crow, and the civil rights movement. This reckoning is seen across the state. In Mani, visit Bryant's Grocery, where events led to Emmett Till's lynching. Historical markers preserve these sites, ensuring lessons aren't forgotten. Mississippi now has more black elected officials than any other state. Conversations about race and history are more open. Understanding Mississippi's identity is essential to appreciating its soul and hope for a better tomorrow. To find the true soul of Mississippi, you have to listen. More than any other place in America, this state is defined by its music. This is the fertile ground where the blues were born, growing from field hollers of enslaved people. It was the music of hardship and survival. We're traveling down Highway 61, the legendary Blues Highway, through the heart of the Delta. We're heading to Clarksdale and the Delta Blues Museum. This music eventually spread to Chicago and the entire world. In Tupelo, Elvis Presley grew up listening to gospel music. Mississippi is the birthplace of both the king of rock and roll and the king of the blues, B.B. King. The Mississippi Blues Trail guides you through this rich history. It's a sound that tells the story of its people, their struggles, their faith, and their enduring hope. You can't talk about the soul of a place without talking about its food. In Mississippi, food is more than just sustenance. It's a celebration of history, community, and tradition. The cuisine here is a delicious blend of its cultural influences, Native American, West African, and European. It's known as soul food, and is cooked with love and meant to be shared. The ingredients are simple, drawn from the land and the water. Corn, the staple crop of the early Choctaw and Chickasaw, is transformed into creamy grits, savory cornbread, and hush puppies. It's honest, unpretentious cooking that warms you from the inside out. A classic Mississippi meal is a feast for the senses. Imagine a plate piled high with crispy cornmeal-dusted fried catfish caught fresh from a local pond. Alongside it, you'll find a generous helping of slow-cooked collard greens seasoned with smoked turkey or bacon until they are perfectly tender. Add a scoop of creamy macaroni and cheese baked until golden and bubbly on top, and a piece of skillet-baked cornbread, perfect for sopping up every last bit of flavor. This isn't just a meal, it's a ritual. It's the centerpiece of Sunday dinners, family reunions, and community gatherings across the state. It's food that brings people together. The flavors of Mississippi change as you travel through its different regions. Down on the Gulf Coast, the bounty of the sea takes center stage. The culinary traditions here are influenced by the early French settlers and the vibrant Vietnamese fishing community. You'll find restaurants serving up platters of fresh Gulf shrimp, either fried, boiled, or served over grits. You can enjoy plump oysters, grilled or raw, and delicious blue crab. This coastal cuisine is a reminder of the state's connection to the wider world. And of course, no meal in Mississippi is complete without a glass of sweet iced tea and a slice of dessert. The state is famous for its decadent Mississippi mud pie, a rich chocolate concoction that lives up to its name. Or perhaps you'll try a slice of pecan pie made with nuts harvested from local trees. Visiting a family-owned diner or a meat and tree restaurant is an essential Mississippi experience. It's here, over a shared meal, that you'll feel the warmth and hospitality that is so central to the soul of the state. There must be something in the Mississippi water that inspires great stories. The state has produced an astonishing number of world-renowned authors, including 2 Nobel Prize laureates, William Faulkner and Tennessee Williams. Writers like Faulkner, Eudora Welty, and Richard Wright dug deep into the complexities of life in the South. They wrote about the land, the tangled family histories, the rigid social codes, and the profound struggles with race and class. Their novels and stories are not always easy to read, but they are powerful, honest, and unflinching in their portrayal of the human condition. They created a literary landscape as rich and complex as the physical one. This literary tradition didn't just appear out of nowhere, it grew from a deep-rooted culture of oral storytelling. For generations before television and the internet, the front porch was the center of social life. It was where families and neighbors would gather on warm evenings to share the news of the day, tell tall tales, and pass down family histories from one generation to the next. This art of conversation, of spinning a good yarn, is still valued in Mississippi. People take the time to talk, to listen, and to share their experiences. It's a slower, more personal way of connecting that feels increasingly rare in our fast-paced world. You can feel this literary spirit when you visit places like Oxford, home to William Faulkner's beautiful and preserved home, Roanoke. Walking through the rooms where he wrote his masterpieces, you can almost feel his presence. The town square, which he fictionalized in his novels, is still the heart of the community. In Jackson, you can visit the home and garden of Eudora Welty, a Pulitzer Prize-winning author who captured the subtle nuances of everyday life with incredible grace and wit. These places are not just museums, they are shrines to the power of words and the importance of telling our own stories. This storytelling legacy continues today. Mississippi is home to a vibrant community of contemporary writers, poets, and journalists who are still exploring the state's identity. They are grappling with its past and imagining its future, adding their own chapters to its long and complex narrative. The state's love of a good story is also what makes it such a fascinating place to travel. If you take the time to sit and talk with the people you meet, the shop owner, the musician, the museum guide, you'll find that everyone has a story to share. And listening to those stories is how you truly begin to understand the soul of Mississippi. Beyond the music and food, the true soul of Mississippi lies in the character of its resilient people. This is a state that has endured immense hardship throughout its history. Yet through it all, its people have persevered. It is nurtured by 3 powerful pillars that form the bedrock of society here: faith, family, and community. Faith runs deep in Mississippi. Family is the other anchor of life here. In small towns across Mississippi, the entire community can feel like an extended family. This powerful combination creates a spirit of profound hospitality and genuine warmth. It is a spirit of perseverance and grace that is Mississippi's most precious and enduring resource. Our journey begins in Natchez, where antebellum mansions line the bluffs above the Mississippi River. These grand homes, once symbols of immense wealth, now tell stories of both ambition and the enslaved people whose labor built them. Sites like Forks of the Road and the Grand Village of the Natchez Indians reveal the city's layered, complex past. North in Vicksburg, the National Military Park preserves the memory of the Civil War siege that shaped the nation. Exploring these river cities is essential to understanding the forces that shaped Mississippi and America. Heading north, we enter the Mississippi Delta, birthplace of the blues and a land of endless cotton fields. In Clarksdale, the Delta Blues Museum and legendary juke joints keep the music alive. Following the Blues Highway, we visit Indianola's B.B. King Museum in Greenwood, where Robert Johnson rests. Each stop reveals the Delta's deep history of struggle, creativity, and resilience. The blues grew from this soil, shaped by hardship and hope. A journey here is a pilgrimage into America's musical soul. For a change of pace, we cruise the Natchez Trace Parkway, a tranquil, scenic drive through Mississippi's forests and hills. This ancient route, once traveled by Native Americans and settlers, is dotted with historic sites and hiking trails. Walk the old trace, visit ancient mounds, and pause at the haunting Cypress Swamp. The trace offers a peaceful escape and a direct connection to the state's natural and historic beauty. Sometimes, the journey itself is the destination. Next, we reach the Gulf Coast, 62 miles of white sand beaches, vibrant towns, and a spirit of resilience. Ocean Springs charms with its art scene, while Biloxi buzzes with casinos and entertainment. The coast's recovery from Hurricane Katrina is a testament to its people's strength. Explore barrier islands, savor fresh seafood, and soak in the laid-back atmosphere. Here, history, art, and nature blend into a unique coastal experience. The Gulf Coast is Mississippi's sun-soaked, ever-renewing edge. Beyond the big cities, Mississippi's small towns like Oxford and Corinth offer rich history and southern hospitality. Oxford's literary vibe and Corinth's Civil War legacy invite exploration. The state's natural beauty shines in places like Tishomingo State Park and the Soto National Forest. From rolling hills to piney woods, outdoor adventures abound. Mississippi's heart beats in its quiet towns and wild landscapes, just waiting to be discovered. Every place has its stories. Mississippi is full of them. One of the most famous stories involves President Theodore Roosevelt and a hunting trip in the Mississippi Delta. He refused to shoot a tethered bear, deeming it unsportsmanlike. This act of compassion inspired the teddy bear. Another interesting fact, the Mississippi River isn't entirely Mississippi's. The state line runs through the river, creating isolated pockets of Mississippi land on the Arkansas side, rivers changing course. These stories and geographical puzzles add to the fun of travel, making our journey memorable. Some of Mississippi's most surprising stories are born from its relationship with water, particularly the Great River. The Great Mississippi Flood of 1927 was one of the most destructive river floods in the history of the United States. The flood displaced hundreds of thousands of people and completely reshaped the physical and social landscape. In a quirky twist, the city of Vicksburg became the site of a sweet innovation. In 1894, Joseph Biedenharn became the very first person to bottle Coca-Cola. You can visit the Biedenharn Coca-Cola Museum in Vicksburg today. Mississippi also loves a good festival, and some of them are wonderfully unique. Perhaps one of the most unique is the World Catfish Festival, held every year in the town of Belzoni, which proudly calls itself the catfish capital of the world. These quirky festivals and historical firsts reveal the playful and inventive spirit of Mississippi. They are the hidden gems that make exploring Mississippi such a rewarding experience. Our journey through Mississippi has come to an end. We have traveled from the historic river cities of Natchez and Vicksburg to the soulful heart of the Delta. We've driven the serene Natchez Trace, relaxed on the resilient Gulf Coast, and discovered the charm of its small towns. We've listened to the music, tasted the food, and grappled with a history that is both painful and profound. Mississippi is a state of deep complexity, a place that defies easy labels and rewards the curious traveler. What we've shown you is just a glimpse of all that the Magnolia State has to offer. The real magic happens when you experience it for yourself. Mississippi is not a place to be rushed, so I encourage you to come and write your own Mississippi story. You will find a place that is more beautiful, more welcoming, and more thought-provoking than you ever imagined. It's a trip that will stay with you long after you've returned home, leaving you with a deeper appreciation for this vital and soulful piece of our country. Thanks for joining me on this adventure through Mississippi, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more travel adventures. Until next time, keep on traveling.